All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're uncovering the hidden, microscopic world of what might be lurking right there on your plate, and more importantly, how to defeat it. You know, every time we sit down for a meal, we're basically placing our trust in a massive, mostly unseen scientific defense system. So we're going to look closely at food contamination, what these hazards actually are, how they sneak into our meals, what they do to the human body, and the brilliant ways that science and you can stop them.
This question really taps into our basic survival instincts, doesn't it? I mean, we usually judge our food by how it looks and smells. But the crazy reality of food microbiology is that the most dangerous threats in our meals are the ones we can't even see. Spoiled food? Sure, it might look or smell gross because of benign spoilage organisms, but a piece of food that looks and smells perfectly delicious, it can still harbor deadly pathogens. There's just no way to tell just by looking.
So here's the crucial point. Contamination isn't just about, dropping your food in the dirt. In the scientific world, food isn't just dirty. It's considered contaminated if it contains active biological, chemical, or physical agents that can do serious harm to your body. We are literally talking about active microorganisms that treat your food as their own personal all-you-can-eat buffet. Let's break these threats down into our three main villains. First up, biological hazards. These are your living invaders, so bacteria, fungi, and viruses. Second, we have chemical hazards. These can range from agricultural pesticides and heavy metals all the way to factory cleaning residues. And third, physical hazards. This is extraneous stuff, like glass, plastic, or stones that accidentally makes its way into the processing chain. Yikes, right? Now, you might assume that bacteria like Salmonella are the absolute biggest issue globally. I know I did. But if we look at the data from the Rapid Alert System for Food and Feed, it tells a completely different story. Chemical hazards and mycotoxins, which are dangerous toxins produced by fungi, actually make up the vast majority of reported global food safety alerts. Mycotoxins alone, which can contaminate crops like cereals and apples, account for a massive 29% of hazards. That is a huge slice of the pie. Moving on to our next section, how contamination happens, breaching the defenses. So thinking about the entire food chain, from the raw material all the way to the consumer, contamination can infiltrate at literally any physical touch point. It's like a giant puzzle with 100 vulnerable spots. It can happen at the farm if the soil or water is bad. It can happen during transport, inside an industrial processing plant, or right there on the retailer shelf. Every single step is an opportunity for an unwanted guest to hitch a ride. And there's a really vital distinction in how this transfer actually happens. Direct contamination is pretty straightforward. It's, someone coughing directly on your salad or agricultural runoff hitting a crop. But cross-contamination, that is sneaky. It's the silent transfer of microbes. Picture this. A raw chicken breast leaves Campylobacteria on a chopping board. And then you use that exact same board to chop fresh vegetables. Boom, cross-contamination. And honestly, this happens right in our own kitchens all the time. All right, Section 3, the toll on humans when the invaders win. When those defenses fail, the physical toll on the human body can be rapid and severe. Specific pathogens absolutely love to hijack specific foods. For example, Salmonella and Campylobacter thrive in poultry and eggs. Meanwhile, E. coli 0157H7 is notorious for hiding out in undercooked ground beef. When you ingest these living organisms, they multiply in your intestinal tract, causing really intense symptoms. We're talking abdominal cramps, nausea, and bloody diarrhea. Not a fun time. It is super vital to understand the difference between these two terms, food infection versus food intoxication. An infection means you're actively eating live bugs that are going to grow inside you. But an intoxication, that means you're eating the poisonous chemical toxins those bugs left behind while they were growing in the food. With intoxication, the onset of illness is incredibly rapid. We're talking sometimes within just a few hours. And when we talk about toxins, Clostridium botulinum is the ultimate villain. It produces a neurotoxin in low-acid anaerobic environments. Think improperly canned food. What's truly terrifying about this one is that it doesn't change the taste or appearance of the food at all. But ingesting it, it can cause weakness, double vision, progressive inability to breathe, and even severe paralysis. Which brings us to Section 4, the industrial defense system, fighting back on a massive scale. Fortunately, food science has developed a massive defense system to defeat these threats long before you take a bite. The hero of our story here is HACCP, which stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points. Fun fact, this was actually originally developed to produce zero-defect food for astronauts on space flights. But today, it's an internationally recognized framework that food manufacturers used to ruthlessly seek out and neutralize biological, chemical, and physical hazards. This step-by-step process ensures that we aren't just crossing our fingers and hoping our food is safe. Manufacturers actually map out the entire production flow. They identify exactly where a hazard could be introduced, and they establish critical control points. At every single vulnerable stage, strict scientific controls like specific heating times or running things through metal detectors are applied to either entirely eliminate the hazard or, at the very least, reduce it to a safe level. All right, let's look at Section 5, the science of preservation, neutralizing threats at the micro level. So, zooming in on the actual microscopic warfare and preservation science used at these critical control points. The fundamental goal of food processing is incredibly simple in theory, but really difficult to execute. You basically have to prevent two things. First, autolysis, which is the food's own enzymes breaking its cellular structure down. And second, you must completely halt the growth of those invading bacteria and fungi. Heat is absolutely our most powerful weapon here, and we use it on a spectrum. It ranges from a gentle blanching just to reduce surface bacteria, all the way up to pasteurization. Think heating milk to 72 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds to kill pathogens without completely ruining the flavor. But for the ultimate defense, we use commercial sterilization and canning. That applies extreme pressurized heat above 121 degrees Celsius. And that specific temperature is absolutely required to destroy those deadly, heat-resistant botulism endospores we talked about earlier. Now, on the flip side, extreme cold acts as a giant pause button. Refrigeration slows down microbial activity, sure, but freezing? Freezing effectively halts biological reactions entirely. Why? Well, because it crystallizes the water in the food, and without liquid water, those microorganisms simply cannot grow. They are completely stuck. We can also starve these invaders of water in a few other clever ways. By drying the food out or adding really high concentrations of salt or sugar, we decrease the available moisture through osmosis. We are literally dehydrating the microbes. Alternatively, we can lower the pH by using acids or lactic acid fermentation. Pathogens like Clostridium botulinum simply cannot survive in a highly acidic, hostile environment. It's basic science, but it works brilliantly. And finally, Section 6. Protecting your own plate, the final defense. Here's the thing, though. All of this brilliant industrial science, all those heat treatments and critical control points, they mean absolutely nothing if the defenses fail in the very last stage, your own home. You are the final barrier. By washing your raw fruits and veggies, practicing good personal hygiene, isolating raw meats from cooked foods, and utilizing your fridge properly to rapidly cool leftovers, you are essentially running your very own mini HACP program right there in your kitchen. So the next time you prepare a meal, take a second to remember the incredible, invisible science at play keeping you safe. From the farm all the way to the processing plant, thousands of scientific protocols have protected that food. The real question is, when it finally reaches your counter, are you the strongest or the weakest critical control point in your kitchen? Definitely something to think about the next time you pick up a cutting board. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.